Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak-to-Peak region, in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
The song that you are currently listening to is called Whose Mama Is This? This is the opening track from the debut album by the band Ballistic Kisses, Total Access, originally released in 1982. This band featured local poet Mike Parker. To learn more about Mike Parker and his poetry, be sure to check out a National Poetry Month Spotlight episode of the Mountaineer Podcast featuring Mike Parker. To hear this album in its entirety, be sure to check out the YouTube link in this podcast episode's description. Hello there, everybody. My name is Jamie Lammers, and welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where today we're ushering in National Poetry Month with a very special segment brought to you by our correspondent, Maryann Rosen. But before we get into that segment, some announcements. First, I wanted to let you guys know that it's time once again for the annual Mountaineer Poetry Contest. This is a reader-submitted contest with a Reader's Choice poll to vote for your favorite. Poems will be published through April 2025, National Poetry Month. Be sure to head to the mtnear.com/forms/its-your-turn or find the QR code to submit the form by heading to our homepage at the mtnear.com. Next, we're looking for more DJs to join the Mountaineer Podcast. We're always looking for more peak-to-peak voices to feature on this podcast, so be sure to email me at media@themountaineer.com to let me know if you want to be involved in the podcast in any way, shape, or form. Also, email our editor-in-chief, Barbara Hardt, at info@themountaineer.com. And finally, this week is the final chance to see Hadestown Teens Edition at Nederland Middle Senior High School. This production, written by Anais Mitchell, is a beautiful and tragic story that follows Orpheus on a journey to the underworld to rescue his beloved Eurydice. We meet Hades and Persephone as they try to mend a strained and decaying relationship. We are introduced to the Fates, who are ever-present controllers of destiny, and the Workers, who represent the common man and are essential to the musical's themes of labor and rebellion. This tragic musical not only retells the Greek myth in a new and vibrant form, but it is a strong commentary on the state of our current world and what it means to make sacrifices and face adversity, and to dream of a better world. Be sure to see Hadestown Teens Edition at the Nederland Middle Senior High School Auditorium to see Miss Elizabeth Evans's final show as part of Nederland Middle Senior High. To reserve tickets for Thursday, April 10th, starting at 7 p.m., Friday, April 11th, starting at 7 p.m., or Saturday, April 12th, starting at 1 p.m. or 7 p.m., then be sure to email Nederland, MSHS2@gmail.com. Tickets are $10 for adults and $5 for students and seniors. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to The Mountaineer yet, then be sure to head to our website at the mtnear.com and click subscribe at the top right corner of our homepage. From there, you'll get full access to our digital archive and scanned copies of our physical newspapers. And you can even choose to receive a physical subscription, send it to your mailbox, or send it to the mailbox of someone that you love. If you want to get advertising in the paper or the podcast, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com/advertise to learn what options are available. All right, everybody, let's get into our National Poetry Month segment. Take it away, Maryann.
This is the Mountain Ear Podcast, and I'm Maryann Rosen, bringing you history, lore, or stories from or about the mountains you live in. April is National Poetry Month, a 30-day celebration launched by the Academy of American Poets in 1996 to raise awareness and appreciation for poetry in the United States. It is a month to salute poetry in all of its forms and to highlight the importance of poets and poetry in our culture, an attempt to encourage people to write or engage with this type of writing. Poetry is a form of literature that uses language in a creative and imaginative way to express emotions and ideas. Poems often feature a rhythmic pattern and rhyme schemes, descriptive language and imaging, and figurative language such as metaphors, similes, and symbolism. All of this contributes to strong visual or sensory experiences, an evocative expression of ideas, and a musicality or flow of language. Poems can be structured in various ways, with lines, stanzas, and different forms. They express many emotions, from joy and love to sorrow and anger. Sonnets, haikus, elegies, epics, odes, lyric, dramatic, narrative, and free verse are some of the many forms of poetry. Whether expressing emotions, reflecting on death or tragedy, narrating adventures, praising a person or event, or telling a story using poetic devices such as assonance, alliteration, euphony, cacophony, onomatopoeia, or rhythm is a way to create musical or artistic effects. The earliest poetry is believed to have been recited or sung. It was employed as a way of remembering oral history, genealogy, and law. It is often closely related to musical traditions, and the earliest poetry exists, often in the form of hymns and chants. In Africa, poetry has a history dating back to prehistorical times, with the creation of hunting poetry. Poetry took numerous forms in medieval Europe, including lyric and epic poetry. Troubadours are known for composing their lyric poetry about courtly love, usually accompanied by an instrument. The development of modern poetry is generally seen as having started at the beginning of the 20th century and extending into the 21st. Among its major American poets are T.S. Eliot, Robert Frost, Maya Angelou, Allen Ginsberg, Ezra Pound, Joy Harjo, and Nobel laureate Louise Gluck. Contemporary poetry is of a much more flexible manner. Today, because poetry competes with other forms of expression that do not involve the intricacies of rhyme, rhythm, meter, subtext, and metaphor, it seems that poetry is not written or read as much now as it was in the past. In a 2022 survey, the National Endowment for the Arts reports that 9.2% of Americans read poetry. Although low, that is actually up from the 6.7% in 2012. Poetry often intimidates people and forces one to concentrate. It is, however, still the art form we turn to when we feel that everyday conversation won't suffice. It's the art form we devour when our feelings don't make sense. In both the United States and in Colorado, we appoint poet laureates due to the importance of this form of writing. The current USA Poet Laureate is Ada Limon. Appointed in 2022 by Librarian of Congress Carla Hayden, Limon is in her second term, which is due to end soon. Hopefully, another will be appointed to take her place. Ada Limon was born in Sonoma, California, and is of Mexican ancestry. She is the first Latina to be Poet Laureate of the United States. Limon has written 6 poetry collections, including The Hurting Kind, The Carrying, and Bright Dead Things. Colorado was among one of the first states to create a state poet laureate, and that honor was bestowed upon Alice Polk Hill in 1919. Andrea Gibson currently holds that position, although her term ends soon as well. Gibson was appointed by Governor Jared Polis in 2023. She replaced poet Bobby Lefebvre. Gibson's goals have always been to help people fall in love with poetry and use poetry to expand humanity. Originally from Maine, Gibson now is a Boulder-based queer activist, author, and slam poet. She is a 4-time Denver Grand Slam champion, a 2-time winner of the Independent Publishers Award, a 3-time Goodreads Choice Awards finalist, and the winner of the first Women's World Poetry Slam. Gibson's spoken word poetry speaks to topics ranging from gun reform to mental health. There are several poets who either live in our Peak-to-Peak area or write about the area or both. Burt Rashbaum has the rare privilege of being one of the 5 operators at the Carousel of Happiness, a carousel with animals all hand-carved by a Vietnam veteran. Ridership of the carousel is approaching 1 million people. The author of novels, short fiction, and Blue Petals, a poetry collection, Burt Rashbaum's latest offering of poems was inspired by the wide variety of life and reactions to the beauty of the carousel that he has witnessed over the years. In describing his experiences, he would often say, and quote, "I see magic there," end quote. This new book, Of the Carousel, Poems by Burt Rashbaum, is bound to call to mind the rare, indescribable magic and delight felt by carousel riders everywhere. Erin Robertson's poetry has been published in the North American Review, Cold Mountain Review, Poet Lore, Deep Wild, Mycoepithalamia Mushroom Wedding Poems, Chiaroscuro, an anthology of virtue and vice, and elsewhere. Some past honors include Voices of the Wilderness Artist in Residence at Koyukuk National Wildlife Refuge in Alaska, the Columbine Poets Members Contest, and a Boulder County Artist in Residence at Caribou Ranch outside of Nederland. Scott Harrison, the Vietnam veteran who carved by hand the animals on the Carousel of Happiness, is another poet from the area. A resident of Nederland, Harrison is a woodworker and poet of haiku poetry. His book of haikus, Carousel Soul, Inside the Carousel of Happiness, explores the story of that carousel. Harrison uses his poetry to explore the animals and inhabitants of the Carousel of Happiness. He has also written an essay about his experience as a Vietnam veteran and how it changed his relationship with God. Kimono Mountain Poems transports the reader to remote Colorado mountains and introduces a sexy spring rhubarb, a stalker cougar, and the well-worn snowshoes of life. Written by Ward resident Michael Parker, it is his 4th collection of poetry. His writings get to the gravel and grit of political and environmental issues, but also to the tenderness of love for the children and people of his mountain community and the awe he feels towards things with natural beauty and power, whether it is a woman or a mountain or losing a lifelong friend to cancer. He is married to Mary Johnston Parker, who is a poet in her own right. Involved in various poetry readings across the Peak to Peak, Gerald Ray Phillips is part of a Netherlands writing group and is writing a novel. His wife, Donna Phillips, although primarily an artist, is a member of the same writing group. And after a poetry reading done with her husband, aforementioned ward poet Michael Parker encouraged her to write, an activity she has engaged in ever since. These are just a smattering of writers from the area. Look them up, read their poems, which is a great way to celebrate the month. Other ways to observe National Poetry Month is to sign up for Poem a Day at poets.org, which offers a daily poem via email. Share poems on social media using hashtag National Poetry Month. Attend poetry readings or workshops. Write poetry. Visit your local library or bookstore and find books of poetry to read and enjoy. One can also display the official National Poetry Month poster distributed by the Academy of American Poets. Teach children about poetry and read poems to them. Follow the Academy on social media at poets.org. Memorize a poem, act out a poem, and give a poem a book of poetry as a gift. You can also look for the Poetry Corner in each edition of the Mountain Ear newspaper, where you will find poems written by local residents. In honor of National Poetry Month, the Mountain Ear has also announced a new annual poetry contest. This is a reader-submitted contest with a Reader's Choice poll to vote for your favorite. Poems will be published through April. Happy Poetry Month, happy reading, and happy writing. Listen in next time to the Mountain Ear Podcast for more mountain history, lore, or stories. I'm Maryann Rosen. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Maryann, for bringing us another great segment. I'll be back tomorrow with the first of 2 parts of a very special Music of the Mountains episode. In the meantime, if you want to share this episode or others around with whoever you see fit, then be sure to head to the mtnear.com and scroll near to the bottom, or head to our podcast's main hub at the mtnearpodcast.buzzsprout.com to see a full archive of all of our episodes. If you're interested in being involved in the podcast in any way, shape, or form, then email me at media@themountaineer.com and Barbara Hardt at info@themountaineer.com, and we'll get something sorted for you. And finally, if you want to give us general or specific feedback about the podcast, then head to an individual episode description and send us a text. We'd love to hear from you. And finally, promotional announcements brought to you by the Mountaineer.
Looking for a unique advertising opportunity? The Mountaineer Podcast may be a perfect fit for you. Our podcast reaches local listeners at least 3 days each week. We can create your podcast commercial for you, or you can submit your own. Contact Amanda McDonald for additional information. Her email is adsales@themountaineer.com, and her cell is 720-960-2900. Have you checked out the Mountaineer YouTube lately? We are very excited to have a videographer intern this spring, as well as Clementine Miller, who's been working hard to record some of our local events and meetings to share with you. Go check it out on the Mountaineer YouTube. Have you seen our 2024 Peak to Peak Visitors Guide? We have just launched our 2025 Media Kit for the next guide. Go to our website and click on Advertise to see the full media kit there. Spring is springing, and we all know that means the flowers will be popping out all over the place, reminding us of beautiful art. That also means it's time to start thinking about the 2025 studio tour. Go to our website and click on special sections to view the 2024 guide and prepare yourself for this year's edition.
I'll see you guys tomorrow with the first part of a very special episode of Music of the Mountains. Have a great rest of your day! The song that you are currently listening to is called Workaholic, and it comes from the debut album of the band Ballistic Kisses, titled Total Access, which was originally released in 1982. The band features local ward poet Mike Parker, and you can learn more about Mike Parker's poetry and hear him talk more about his life in music and in writing in general by listening to a National Poetry Month Spotlight episode of the Mountaineer Podcast featuring Mike Parker. To hear this album in its entirety, be sure to head to the YouTube link in this podcast episode's description.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak-to-Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.